Hello, we're live. Welcome to the January Space Sirens Live. I realise I don't normally do this bit and I can't remember what we normally say, but let's introduce ourselves. So I am Nikki from Books and Lemon Squash.
I'm Stephanie from Miss Richards Reads.
I'm Kerry from Kerry Louise Reads. I'm currently in the middle of baking something because I ran out of time, so apologies for my chaos.
I think baking and booktube should go together hand in hand more often, frankly, and I'm here for this. Also, I need to come over and have some brownies and Rocky Road, please.
Like, definitely, you're very welcome.
So, we're just going to plan our social lives while we have this live. And the January book is Iron Widow by Xiran Zhao. And for a start, can I just say how much I love Xiran? They are a fully amazing, wonderful creator, human being, and really leaning in to how to advertise a book on social media. Mm-hmm. And every video I see from them, every tweet I see from them, I'm just like, please stop, I love you too much.
I love that they're so unapologetic.
Yes, that's what I love.
About themselves, but also as an author, the book doesn't pull any punches. It's hardcore, and they are so unapologetic about the fact that it is drama all the way through. And yeah, I think that was one of the things I loved about it. It's an intense read and it's a hard read, but it's also fun, and there's a lot of humor in there, and so they pair the drama and the humor and all the elements so well that it's just a very engaging book, even though it's difficult and it takes some really challenging topics and messes with your head.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that was an excellent link as well, because I was like, the way that they've turned how all that author promo into actually a similar vibe to the book is quite quite impressive. But yeah, they're very enthusiastic about everything that they've put in and everything they believe in, and that really comes across to me from the book in my favorite parts. Mm-hmm. So as a little summary, I thought we'd sort of start with the non-spoiler stuff, as we always do. Mm-hmm. And I've got a notification over everything I need to see. Thank you. And so just sort of let's go through roughly what the plot is. So basically, it's set in a futuristic Asian sort of China-inspired world, a sci-fi world, but it is inspired by a lot of historic Chinese stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people have got caught up in that and keep thinking it's fantasy. It is not. It is sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. It's sci-fi, but I will say, to me, it did read like fantasy.
It does. It does.
Future books in the series will read more like sci-fi because of some of the stuff that happens in the book, but this one did read like fantasy to me.
That's a good point. Yeah. And I to be honest, I think it's, the line is much of a muchness for me. But it's just to sort of say, if you're going in, there are robots and mechas and stuff like that, there is big sci-fi elements. Do not be surprised by this. If you're expecting a fantasy, you might be a little bit, oh, what's that? Basically it is a very patriarchal society. And they have these big robot mechas that they use to fight the Hundun. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And that was our other thing, is that we're going to try for the correct pronunciations, following Xiran's pronunciation guide that they put on TikTok. We can only apologize for the inevitable butchering, but we are trying, and we love Xiran, so we want to try, and hopefully we're getting it somewhere near right. So it's these mechas. I feel like I'm probably using the wrong word, but I think that's quite a good word for what it is. Are powered by a boy and a girl, and oftentimes the female pilots die as a result of powering the men, and they are off fighting in this war. And that is sort of a very light touch on the premise. Oh, we have Amber. Hello. And we have.
Sorry,
currently
Angela.
on
I accidentally had it on private, so we're now good. I changed it.
It's fine. It's fine. Welcome in if you have been late. Like, I was wondering where everyone was. So we've got all our lovely people. We have Angela and we have Kayla. Yay. Yay.
StreamYard changed stuff and now it's all complicated.
Yeah. So I think kind of I don't actually have a list up. I meant to try and find one. But I wanted to talk about like trigger warnings going in, because one of my friends mentioned the big one for her was something that happened very early on, which is the foot binding scene. And she really struggled with that, and I was like, oh, okay, interesting, because I mean, I did, it's horrific, but I don't think I struggled anywhere near as much. So I was like, I wanted to put that in as a trigger warning. But I mean, the trigger warnings really are, there is a ton of very graphic, like, thinking about violence and actual violence. Like, it is very patriarchal, as I think I said earlier. Like, there is lots of discussion about the worth of specific sorts of people over other specific sorts of people. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. I'm sure there is a whole bunch.
Sexual assault.
Addiction.
I was just about to say sexual. Yeah. So like there is a lot of stuff in here that is quite heavy going, and if you need to look after yourself, please do, and please search out some trigger warnings.
Yes.
Make sure you're all okay.
If you go on there's a website called Book Trigger Warnings, and this is definitely on there because I'm sure I added it, or it was already on there, but I added some more trigger warnings to it. So yeah, because I'm sure I have. If I haven't, I will do it today.
I think you probably did.
I will get it on there. So
yeah, just for those people who might have missed the beginning, Carrie is currently baking, so we're doing a baking and booktube stream because we love it. If you're wondering what she's up to. I'm just jealous.
Why I keep licking my fingers.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, where do we want to start? How do people feel about it?
Well, first of all, Angela wants to know what you're baking before we start.
Very important.
I am making Rocky Road, and I've got brownies in the oven, which hopefully have finished cooking now. I've turned the oven off, so if they hadn't quite finished, then they will finish in the oven while it's still hot.
Well, that's a good idea.
I had, the story behind it is I had some popcorn in individual bags, and I ate some and realised it had gone a bit stale, so I thought, what can I do with stale popcorn? I know, let's make Rocky Road.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, but I haven't got quite enough chocolate. I'm going to have to melt some more chocolate, I think, because I don't think it's going to stick together.
Cool. And Kayla is very jealous. But also loved the book. And then Angela is saying, as someone who hasn't read it, I want to know if it lived up to the hype. For me, absolutely yes.
I think it did too. And I went in knowing that a lot of my friends loved it, so I was trying to temper my expectations, and I really, really liked it. And I actually started re-listening to it. I'm not quite finished, but I liked it just the same the second time.
Carrie, what was your thought?
Yes, I was worried about the hype, but I did really enjoy it. I got really caught up in the story and read it quite quickly in the end. So but it was one of those times, like there are sometimes with Space Irons where some of us have read the book before we nominate it and others haven't, and then like everyone's like, it's so good, and I was worried. I was also worried about some aspects of the plot. So because in the blurb it talks about these concubine pilots, and I was like, that word concubine just makes me nervous.
Yeah.
All of the negotiations with it. And I had this conversation with a friend as well. And I did convince her to read it when I've read it, and told her it wasn't like, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be in terms of that aspect. Like, we're both quite smut averse, and so we were worried.
It's fine.
Of that, and there isn't. It's got a lot of other grown-up content.
Yes, different grown-up.
Different type of grown-up content.
Yeah. But conversely, Amber did not like the book, and a couple of my very good friends who I would have thought would have did not. And having gone searching for a couple of reviews to sort of remind myself of talking points this morning, I can see why. For me, I think because it is such a fast, addictive read. It, like, you can tell it's sort of being inspired by an action movie. It's got that sort of feel to it. Like, I found that I sort of flew through it, and I suspect if I took more time, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much in some ways. I read it very quickly, but I think it is, like, if you can sort of suspend disbelief and kind of immerse yourself in the world, I think there is a lot to love about it, and it is a lot of fun. But I can see why people didn't, and I think we'll probably come to that as we go through. Angela also wants to know what books we would compare it to, and honestly, I can't think of anything.
It's very unique. And honestly, it was marketed as YA, which doesn't really feel right to me.
No,
it does to me.
So I don't really know what I would compare it to, and I haven't read a lot of sci-fi, so I don't have a good background.
Yeah, I mean, I saw someone compare it, compare Zetian to Aelin, which, you know, obviously everyone's go-to comparison point is always Sarah J. Maas. I don't disagree, but I don't think they are particularly similar, but in the sense of being very sort of action and revenge driven and being very happy with stabby knives. Like, that is probably a good comparison for me.
I suppose in terms of some of the themes, it reminded me of the Gilded Ones that did we read that for book club last? We read it last.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, but I think kind of like anything like that where it's very down on women, I think is probably in terms of some of the structure of the society and the way women are treated in it, there are a lot of similarities in there. Yeah. And we had a quick conversation before we went on air, and I said I wanted to talk about feminism, and Kerry quite rightly corrected me to smashing the patriarchy, and Kayla has put in the comment of being marketed as being really feminist, which is kind of not true. And I think that is that was the point I sort of wanted to make with it, was that to me it reads like a feminist book because it is smashing the patriarchy, but it isn't feminism for the, like, I want to raise women up. It is because I want to kill all the men. Which
that's a good way to put it.
Fine.
Yeah.
Like, we're okay with that.
But and that was one of the things I think I enjoyed about it, because where for my research I'm reading a lot of quite patriarchal romances. It was just quite refreshing to have something where the patriarchy was being smashed and not reinforced.
I mean, that's fair. And I think this is a fair comment as well. She is kind of judgmental towards other women. I think that's very fair as well. She is very much set up for revenge, trying to go and find the pilot who murdered her sister, and doesn't really kind of care about anything else. And then as things go on a little bit more and she sees what life is like, she still doesn't really care about the fate of women in general, other than the fact that what is going on is a pile of shit, and she's like, I don't like that. So I kind of,
she kind of reminds, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, it's just kind of frustrating that, like, she's not feminist, but actually I kind of like that because it feels true to how she would have been raised, in the sense of, like, yes, she's really angry, like, all the time, really angry at all the men, and that women are treated that way, but she doesn't have the sort of headspace to see it as, but women all should be raised up, and things like that. She's just like, I just want to kill all the men.
She reminds me of Tao from Rage of Dragons, if you've read that. he is very revenge driven, and that is all his motivation is taking revenge. And he's also a very polarizing character. So I feel like this character is kind of the same. Like, no matter what, they have one goal, and that's what they want.
But I think it's also an aspect of the world created that women haven't been able to band together or like each other. There's competition between women is inherently built into the world, that they are not allowed to support or encourage each other. They're only there to support the men. And so I think that it's kind of, in that sense, it's kind of pre-feminist, in that they've got to get to a position where women have even any kind of a voice before they can support and encourage each other and raise each other up.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's what I saw. And I think kind of like the couple of interactions we see with her with women after she gets to the capital is very much in that vein. Yeah. Like, she doesn't really know how to look for an ally, and she doesn't really know how to deal with everything that's going on there.
Like, so that's going to get into a bit into spoilers. I was going to talk about a specific scene, but we'll talk about that probably when we get more.
We'll try and come back to it. I'm trying to figure out what else we can talk about without being hugely spoilery.
And Angela asked, did the characters feel well developed, and did you guys like the character interactions? I think that was one thing it could have improved upon, even though I did really like it. I wish they were a little bit more developed. Some characters are more developed than others.
I would say that there are 3 very well developed characters, and the rest are sort of side thoughts to a degree. I don't actually care about the rest, so that's fine, but it's noticeable.
I would have been okay with it being longer to add that.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's kind of comes back to one of Amber's comments from earlier. So I'm trying to like scroll down and put it all together. Which Amber didn't enjoy because she didn't like the world building. And I think that it is a very light touch world building. Like, you are sort of thrown in at the deep end. We know enough about Chinese history to sort of put stuff together. But it wasn't very well set up at all. I didn't think, and we didn't find out much about the war and why that was happening and everything like that. So, coming back in terms of do they feel well developed? Well, no, but that sort of fits the book.
Yeah,
I agree. The 3 central characters did feel very rounded, but a lot of the side characters felt like they could have been developed more. I don't think they were particularly caricatured. But I think it could have been a bit longer. I don't think it would have lost anything in terms of the pacing or the drama if there had been a little bit more world building in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I read a couple of things that are inspired by or off pace of action movies, so that's probably one of the reasons why I adapted to that quite well. But when I was thinking back of it, I was like, oh gosh, there's lots of things I don't know here, which is fine. And I do think that I like the interactions of our 3 main characters a lot, but we do kind of get towards sort of some insta-love stuff, which I think we need to come back to in the spoilery section. Although I'm aware that Angela has now left us for spoilers.
Yeah, I mean that it has flaws, but I had so much fun with it that I gave it a high rating.
I gave it 5 stars, and I'd stand by that.
I think it was a good balance of the harder stuff and then enough entertaining stuff to keep you going.
Yeah, I think also a good point. And I like Kayla's point, sort of thing, like even if you predict something, you won't add, which I quite like. And I think there was lots of cool stuff. I think, similar to the point you just made, Stephanie, in terms of like there's lots of nice bits kind of keeping you going, but there's also lots of really interesting things that are developed enough for you to be like, oh, you can sort of get a little bit sidetracked on that and not miss the rest. For me, but again, I do understand why, like, having read through a couple of kind of like not negative reviews, but people who didn't enjoy it as much or like pointed out the flaws, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Right. Should we do some spoilers?
Yeah.
Cat. Probably. I'm gonna try and blank it up because she tries to come and kill me, but there we go. But normally what she does is just put her paws just above the blankets and then dig her claws in there, and I'm like, no. That's no. Right. Oh gosh. Actually, I want to say one more unspoilery thing, just because it is something at the beginning. It's a very revenge-based book, and revenge is normally my least favorite trope of all time, and I loved it. I don't know why. That's all I had to say on that. But I just needed to tell you that, because I hate revenge stories. I hate them so much. Why do I love this?
Well, she can be kind of the main character can be kind of unlikable, but you root for her because you understand why she wants what she wants.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the introductions from the author, where they describe Xiran as a villain protagonist. I was like, well, that is kind of true, because she kind of is the villain of the story. She's the one that's like going around killing loads of people, stabby. But you root for her and you support her because of like you understand why. Yeah, you understand where she's coming from with it.
Yeah.
I do like a morally grey, or in this case, very morally black, character and like a village storyline. I like an anti-hero, all of that sort of stuff. So I was definitely very Team Xiran, like very. Like I was just like, this girl could kill me, walk all over my corpse, and I would be happy.
I don't usually, but I have to. So I like character-driven books, and I have to be able to root for the characters. And so even though she was like very obviously the bad guy, but she also wasn't, because you completely understood that the world she was fighting against was so bad that she had to go to that extreme to do it. And I was there for that, because I'm all about smashing the patriarchy. So
yeah. I know the scene Kayla is talking about here. So like to a degree I was reading that going, well, that's a bit extreme, but the rest of me was like, yes, girl, get it. Like, I think that is the best way of putting it, frankly. I don't know how else to phrase that other than like, yes.
Where she reflects on that, and she decides she's going to stand by her actions. She was like, because she does question herself at one point and says, was that a bit extreme? And she was like, nah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's okay. The only reason I think it's a little bit extreme is because other people will judge her for it. Let's be honest. Like, but just what a queen. And not normally my response to someone murdering someone. No, actually, that's a lie. But in this case, you know what I mean. So it was definitely a visual. And as someone who has aphantasia and does not visualize, I was just there going, I can literally picture her standing over this like, dead boy, being like, "Why, yes." Pretty sure that wasn't the noise that she made in the book, but I don't care.
Yeah, I just think the writing in this is very unpretentious.
Yeah,
but I could still visualize everything going on.
Lily's just flaunting her butt. Distracted by Cat, honestly.
Cats and bacon. Are we really a booktube channel at all?
I mean, are you a booktube channel if you're not obsessed with cats and baking? Let's be honest.
Well.
No. Okay. So let's talk love.
Yes.
Or romance or whatever, or lack thereof, because I think there is a sufficient portion of that in there. And I think kind of one of the key things for me was how Zetian really hadn't had a lot of that in her life. Like, she had her sisters, but they are very much groomed to be separated as adults, they don't have necessarily the best relationships and stuff like that. Like, she certainly doesn't seem to have a good relationship with her mum. Like, they are groomed to be property of men. Like, there is that. So the only thing she really knows is everything from, I'm going to get his name wrong again now. I'm going to go with Yeezy, and I know it's not right. And that is very much because, like, he's her friend, sort of. And the only person who sort of truly believes in her, and the only person she gets to be a little bit of herself with, even though he's got such a different background. And I really liked their friendship, but I was still really glad that she was like, no, I'm going to go off and kill this dude instead. And then we meet
awareness of that scene for me, that because she did think about it, but she knew that if she ran away with him, she would end up resenting him and making them both really unhappy. And I was like, yeah, I know adults that don't have that level of self-awareness. And so that really struck me as something that was really good. And then in so many other ways, she was so not self-aware at all. It made me laugh.
Yeah. I don't think I would have ever been that self-aware, certainly not at her age. So that was something I really loved for that. And then we meet the wonderful Xiran, murderer of families, murderer of my heart. I love him. And then it's such a fucking dark story. Why do I love it so much? Like, he killed his whole entire family because they were dicks. Like, he has been addicted to stuff, like, by this horrible, like, military thing, and then, like, he's still such a bean, and I love him. Why?
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, let's just, like,
he's nuanced.
So everyone is very happy that they didn't run off together, and that the boys are great. And I think kind of, I really liked that Xiran and Zetian didn't, like, insta-love themselves together. It happens quickly, but, like, they have a really nice relationship that sort of builds slowly, and you can see the way that the addiction colors that as well. And I think I really liked that.
I just need to wash my hands. Bear with.
Fair. Stephanie, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was very organic given their situations that they were in. And I also really, really loved Xiran, even though I know him. Did I pronounce that right?
I think so.
Xiran. We tried to practice these, and I'm still messing it up. But yeah, I agree. It was nice to see it go away from a love triangle. But I like the explorations of love and relationships in this book, especially given the situation she's been in. I thought it was really, really well done.
Yes. As someone who, I'm growing to appreciate romance books themselves more, but I don't enjoy romance and non-romance books really at all. Usually feel it's not necessary. I really hate love triangles. I just find them pointless. And so to flip that and do something different with that love triangle trope, I really enjoyed that. And it was really funny because my friend who I encouraged to read it, who was also nervous about the concubines thing, we'd had a conversation literally, I don't know, a couple of months ago about how we both dislike love triangles. And her frustration with them is she was like, I just want them to end up all together. Like, why do they have to choose? They should
exactly
just
what happens. But...
And so I said to her, I didn't spoil the book for her, but I said to her, I have a really good reason for thinking you'll really, really like this book, and I think you should read it.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I feel like there is a lot of people read it because it goes poly and not love triangle. And like, fuck yeah, for polyamory being on the New York Times bestseller list. Hell yes. Like, I was there for that. And like, we just need more queer identities being spoken about and unusual relationships being celebrated, which is just fantastic. That aside, even knowing it was poly going in, like when Yuji comes to the like meet with them and is like, yes, I'm going to hang out with you guys, I was a bit like, oh no, because I just had that like love triangle fear, and I was like, oh gosh.
Yeah. I didn't know it was poly, and so I was really worried about this love triangle thing. And then there's a scene where she's in hospital and she wakes up and they're kind of huddled or something. I can't remember exactly how it happens, but like she wakes up and she sees them together, and I was like, oh, okay, that's where we're going. Yeah. Like, okay, fine, I'm on board now. I can cope with that.
Like, she's like, I don't know what to do. I've got two wonderful men, and then she's like, oh, I'm good. And we're all there reading, going, hell yeah, you are. I like how that took you a second. The only thing I will say about the romance is it does feel a bit insta-lovey between Yuji and Shimin, and I would have loved more of their interaction, and to see that sort of develop a little bit.
I mean, I think there were hints, but because it's told from Zetian's perspective and she's a bit oblivious.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
There probably was more, and it's just that because we don't get either of their perspective, we don't see that build in the same way.
Yeah, and I think if it had been longer, I feel like there would have been a little bit more time for that too.
Yeah,
which again, I would have been fine with.
I'm still hoping for some like excerpt novella from one of the boys' perspectives.
That would be amazing.
And given where things got left off, maybe that will happen after the series. I feel like anything we do now sort of has to deal with that, and that's going to be in the next book. So that I'm happy to wait, but it needs to be there.
Yeah.
Xiran has made all sorts of promises and hilarious puns about what will happen in the next book. So
I'm so excited.
Honestly, they interact with all of the tweets about filth, and I'm there for it. like, we know it's not going to be in the book, but do we? But no, I just love their relationship and respect for each other, and the way that then works into the fighting and the mechas and everything like that. And and we haven't talked about the sort of yin yang thing that they've done and said, like the boys are obviously stronger, the women are like down below, like physically below, like quite an imagery, and lesser in every way, and power this thing, and then the boys will just kill them because they're basically using up all their life source. And then not only does Zetian come in and be like, well, fuck that for a barrel of laughs, like Yuji comes in and is like, well, why don't we try 3? 3's a good number. Let's have fun with that.
And to me, I think that was part of the hint about that it would end up being a poly relationship, because when he joins them in the mecha, like he's the thing that makes them work together. And so so even though there wasn't like necessarily that we could see the build up of Yuji's and Shimin's relationship, there were those elements where you had the 3 of them together, where you could see the way they worked as the 3 together, that made it kind of, it didn't feel like insta love to me.
No.
And I hate insta love almost as much as I hate love triangles.
I hate it more.
Yeah. Well, I think for me partly the insta love thing is because I don't get it because I'm Demi, so like it just doesn't happen for me that way, and so I just really struggle with it as a concept. But yeah,
I mean, same for being ace. Like, I just don't understand it. I'm like, wait, that happens? Like, that's what other people feel, huh? but yeah, like, and to find out that the whole power balance is rigged to keep women down. I'm just like, why would you even do that? You suck so bad. Like,
because they're wrong.
Yeah.
That's what the patriarchy is.
Yeah, I feel like we should just be like subtitling the stream like "Death to all men." Right.
Yeah, but I think that's because when we talked about Stolen Kingdom last year, there were similar themes of like the men abusing their power, and they're allowed to have gifts and they're allowed to do these things, and the women aren't, and it's impactful for me because of what I see with the research I'm doing particularly, but just generally in a lot of Western society that I interact with as someone in church. Like, there's still a lot of branches of the church which do act in this way, that don't let the women share or speak or use their gifts. And so I think that's why I really was buying into the story in the same way. And it's from a very different perspective to the Stolen Kingdom, and like very different tone. But it has that similar element. And going back to the earlier question of similar books, it's not similar in a lot of ways, but that idea of like the patriarchy, how the patriarchy works to undermine women. And that is, I've lost my train of thought.
No, but I think you're there, and
that's a good comparison.
Yeah.
One
of the comments I saw was someone saying, like, I am from an Asian background. That is actually, true to my lived experience now. Mm-hmm. Like, and I found that very sad, but also kind of, I'm glad in a way that, it is a realistic thing. And for you to say, well, actually, even just looking like locally, look at something like the church, and you're like, oh yeah, Christ, that's the wrong thing to have said. But like I am lucky enough to not experience a whole lot of that, and you forget how rampant it can be within wherever you look. And I think it's nice to a degree exaggerate it, even though obviously to a degree it's not. And call on it. And that's one of the things I love about fantasy and sci-fi, is that you can do that and say, well, look, this is not okay. Let me draw you a picture in which it's clearly not okay, and then you can draw your own parallels.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And something I like when I've literally just finished a Becky Chambers book, and it's just like that sort of thing happens a lot there. So I think it's quite prevalent in the sort of sci-fi I like to read, is the comparisons with real life. Calling it out in a way that you couldn't if it was set now.
I've been watching it's an old BBC documentary that I'd recorded and never got around to watching, which is about like the history of science fiction, and it takes different themes. But the thing that comes up a lot is how science fiction reflects the world that exists and challenges and gets you to think about how you interact with other people. So like the episode I was watching yesterday was about robot tropes and how robots and artificial intelligence. And there was this one film which I hadn't even heard of, which is like where an alien race have to resettle on Earth, and like the prejudice that they face. And it's really and one of them is it's a police officer who is very kind of set in his ways, who gets paired up with this alien police officer, and it's how he interacts with him. But it's such a blatant take on like racism and what racism is, and that is what good science fiction does in my mind, is it challenges us to rethink how we think about our world based on a picture of a different world.
Yeah, and I see it more explicitly in books, but if you even look at something as mainstream as Star Trek, that was what they set out to do, and they did do. And you just have to look at like Uhura for that. Like again, a queen. But right. Oh gosh, I don't even know what we have to go on to. I mean, there's so much that I want to talk about.
Amber had a good question. Do you think you'd like their points of views in the sequel? And I think I'd like more.
Mm.
Like, I enjoyed following our main character's perspective, but I think it'd be nice to get others as well.
I agree, but I just love her.
Oh,
like, yeah. I feel like Zetien is the driver for this. I feel it will still be in her point of view, which is why I want novellas from the boys' points of view. Because I think she is the driver, she is the rage, and without that, I don't know that the book would work. But I do want to see inside their heads because I love the boys.
Mm.
Yeah. Even if it's like a little excerpt at the end, I would love that.
Yes.
Just like a bonus.
Or just even like a chapter every 6. Like, you know, like not that one. No.
Yeah.
Just the odd thing thrown in, which it can work, you know.
Exactly.
I like Kayla's new question. If you could choose a mythological creature to be your mecha, who would you choose? She would obviously go for a kraken. And water powers. I don't know. I want to be a dragon, obviously, but
they weren't all mythological, though, were they?
No, they weren't.
The turtle. The idea of a fighting turtle, just.
I've always liked phoenixes, which I actually have a tattoo of a phoenix, so I think that would probably be mine.
Nice. I'm loving Amber going for the Loch Ness monster.
She's not a monster. She's just misunderstood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many good options. But I think it's. I don't know, because I don't know what I'd want to be able to do, and to a degree, I think this is where the world building comes back in. Is I don't really know enough about how they worked and what they could do. You're sort of thrown in at the deep end, and then it's all about the spirit power and things like that. And and occasionally when they evolve, and I am using that because I can't remember the term they used, but they power up and become super Pokemon. I was a bit like, oh wait, what's going on here? I don't really understand what happened there, other than the fact that you're now 100% more badass and you've just squashed all of the nasty Hundun people who I'm not convinced are all that nasty. Like, from the last couple of chapters, I'm just suddenly like, wait, hold on, what's going on here?
Well, yeah, there was kind of a hint of that quite early on, where she hears their thoughts, and I was like, okay, they're going to turn out not to be the bad guys. But then I couldn't get my head around how, because we were told they'd invaded Earth. But then, yeah, I mean, this is massive spoiler. Anyone that
massive spoilers now.
Yeah, it turns out the humans are the invading ones. Yeah, so, but there was a lot about the battles in that I couldn't. It's the aphantasia thing. I couldn't picture it. I couldn't get my head around how they worked. And to me, I think that's why it felt more like fantasy than science fiction, because science fiction, you expect there to be some element of explanation. Whereas fantasy, I was just, in my head, it was just like, okay, if I understand this as fantasy, then it's magic, and that's what's making it work. But
yes, and to be fair, that's where I agree with you completely, and it is fantasy written in that sense. Like, it doesn't have to work in an understandable way. That's fine. And I think, kind of like, again, massive spoilers with the things we find with the Emperor. Like, there is definitely bad stuff like happening around him. Like, there is all sorts of shit there that you're like, oh, okay, I need the next book now, please.
Yes. And I'm hoping I'm hoping they expand on all of this more now that we have a really good setup. I'm interested to see where they go with it.
Yeah.
And I think we're more forgiving in this one because it was their debut. So the flaws, so to speak, don't bother me as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And there was a lot of elements that were setting up for another book. I mean, it felt like a complete book in itself. It didn't feel like a prequel to something else, unlike some other books I've read recently. But it felt, so it felt like a complete book in itself. But then there were certain elements that definitely felt like they were building to a continuing series. And so I hope that there'll be like more aspects of world building and character development, particularly for some of the side characters as the series progresses. And I often feel that with first books, when you know it's the first book in a series, you don't necessarily need to have, or I don't personally necessarily need to have all of those elements right from the start, because I like the world building to develop over multiple books. I don't need all of that to happen in the first book. And actually, if I go into a second book and there's no more world building at all, then I'm just like I want more. I want to understand this world better.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and it looks like we've got more agreement.
It is.
As well. I think it's a really strong debut. I do think that, like, the more I think about it, the more inherently flawed it is. I don't care. I really don't. I enjoyed it so much, and I think that's what it comes down to. You know, you don't have. Kayla says it best there, you know, like, yeah, it could be better. Didn't need to be. And yeah, maybe we will see that. And it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if it's a duology or a trilogy or a series. I feel like it's probably going to be 2 or 3, not any longer.
Yeah.
Let me see. I didn't actually look on Goodreads. Let me see if I can.
Well, Goodreads, I think, just has 2 right now.
Okay.
But
yeah, that doesn't mean it's 2, does it?
Well, I googled Iron Widow series length, but it hasn't really come out. Like, I just
maybe they're not even sure yet.
Yeah, but normally it says like how many you've been signed for and stuff like that, and I'm just like, can't see that anywhere.
It's at least a duology for sure.
Yeah. I think for Goodreads they need to have at least some idea of what a potential title might be or what a potential release date might be before they'll allow it to be existing as a book.
No, I haven't seen anything like that either. I'm just, what have I clicked on? Something bad. Yeah, so just having a quick scroll, but can't see it. Oh well. But yeah, no, it's lots to think about. And I mean, obviously we know there's going to be another one because it ends on one hell of a cliffhanger. And like, I don't know how we get past that. I know we do. Like, they have said as much, but how?
Probably lots more murder. I feel like there's going to
Oh, for sure.
Just the way you said that, so straight face. Probably lots of murder. Oh, I like this as well.
Yes. The cover was what made me want to read it. Because I thought it was gorgeous.
I did want to, but then a couple of my friends read Arcs and were raving. And so I was like, well, I'm going to have to try and pick this up. It's so good. And I'm so pleased I did.
I don't love the cover personally, but then I generally don't like people on covers. So
that's fair.
I don't know why. I don't know what it is. If you stick a person on a cover, I lose interest.
Interesting. I do know what you mean, but like equally, I really like this one. Even Amber liked this one. She did not like the book.
Not a fan of the book, but 5 out of 5 for the cover.
But yeah, no, I think kind of like, because it's just more than just the person as well. I'm not just picking on you. It's just the book.
Yeah. But I think this is a book. I read it I think in November for the first time. It was right before we nominated it originally, and I still think about it a lot.
Yeah.
So it's definitely one that just keeps simmering.
I'm in a Discord where we have a thread that we have to keep reactivating because occasionally we'll let it die, and it's basically like Iron Widow stands, and we just go in there and be like, today I thought about Yuji and I was happy. Sort of thing. Like, it's just us being kind of like fully there for everything.
I was worried because I read it right at the start of the month that I felt like I didn't remember a lot of. I've read quite a few things since, but actually, as we've talked about it, I remembered more. So it has stayed with me more than I thought it had. I just have read quite a lot. Sorry, it's getting really dark here. Suddenly,
that's okay. No, I was worried about that as well. Actually, I as similar to you, I don't always remember much from books, even if I really love them. But I think as I talked about this a reasonable amount, and I remembered a reasonable amount, and I was looking for like reviews to be like, oh, just pick out various bits, make sure I got everyone's name, although I knew the main three, and everything like that, and I was like, oh yeah, I'd sort of forgotten XYZ. Not that much, as it turned out. It was like I have been known to forget entire books, and go pick up a sequel and be like, well, I do not remember reading the last one. I know I did. Like, I don't think that's ever going to happen here. I think I am going to be thinking about this for a while. Just something about it wants to stay with me.
Absolutely.
So, what do we think happens next?
Other than more murder.
I'm the worst at predicting. So my one prediction was more murder. So I'm obviously already winning.
I don't think that's so much of a prediction as a certainty.
I know.
I'd like more murder and more kissing. Like, I'd be okay with both of those. Like, I am not normally a non-romance books fans, but I just love them, and I want them to be happy. I don't want lots of it. I just want a little bit.
It was just enough, I think, in this.
Yeah. But we only get it like at the end, so if we have like that sort of amount through, I'd be okay. And I like this. Will she team up with the Hundans? I don't know. I mean, I feel like the fairly obvious thing is we have to figure out what the fuck she's going to do about Ximin.
Because he's being held hostage, isn't he?
Well, he's a bit dead.
Well, no, he's that they're holding. She's got to make the announcement that she was wrong, or they will let him die. He's not actually dead. He's almost dead.
Yeah, we certainly think he's dead at some point. I thought he was dead, and then, like, I don't know. Like, I'm just looking at Amber's review, and it does say body, and I'm like, okay.
I'd see it because I'd understood it as they were like keeping him on life support or something.
Well, it could well be something like that.
Whoever they are.
It does say, yeah. I mean, I think he dies, but how dead he actually was is always a point of contention in these sorts of books, let's be honest. Yeah. I am loving this.
Ooh.
I don't know how that works. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I want to know more about the dragon guy that she revives at the end, and like how he's going to fit into it. And then like the people that lived outside the wall, I want to know more about them.
Yeah. So is the dragon guy the emperor?
Yeah.
Like 3 generations ago or something like that.
Yeah. He had the illness and she had the antidote.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, obviously I know there's going to be a lot around that, but I think there was lots of bad stuff going on around him as well. So I'm very intrigued by what will happen there, because I suspect he's bad in a different way to her current society. And then obviously we find out about everything about the Hunden, and it's just like, oh, okay, there's so many different elements here that I'm just like, how does this jigsaw go back together? I'm excited.
Absolutely.
What have we got here? Becoming a doctor with Rossetti and being like, but we love you, and then it's like
So kind of like
that would make me cry. That would genuinely make me cry.
Yeah, I feel like this one, when the second one comes out, we definitely need like a follow-up discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Although we have said that for other books and not done it.
But that was my fault.
Was it? I think it was mine as well.
Well, I'm the only one who hasn't finished A Desolation Called Peace, I think.
Yeah.
I think
yes, because I even managed to read it before you.
Yeah, because I think we joked about doing it for Incendiary as well, and I have now read.
Yeah.
Illusionary. I don't know if we were going to do a follow-up.
No, or if we were just going to chat.
We did do a buddy read for it, and yeah, some people joined the buddy read and then didn't read it. I'm actually just going to. I know we've only got a few minutes left, but I'm going to switch my light on because it's getting really dark.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep, Kayla's with it. Like,
I actually did read it. I was quite
I have now read it
because I'm the worst at starting series sequels in a timely manner.
Well, I think I maybe said it best earlier. Where is it? Oh, can I find it? There we go. Don't finish series.
Yeah, I'm trying to get better, but I never want them to end, so I keep putting them off.
Yeah, I can't do series enders. We're gonna make you terrible. I love a series ender, even if it does make me cry and make me sad that like that world has gone, because I need to know what happens.
Yeah.
If I really love a series, like I put off Emperor of Gold for ages for that reason, and then like I had Galaxy in the Ground Within on pre-order because I was so excited, and reread the rest of the series in anticipation, and still have not read it because I really can't cope with that.
You need to, it's so good.
I know, and I know I'm gonna love it, but
so I have the last in the Matthew Riley series that me and Lana love, and I got it a couple of days early, and I was like, do I read it? And I got my sister's ex into them, and he was like, yeah, I'm just jumping straight into it. And I was like, I can't, I'm too scared. Like, he's got free reign to kill everybody. I'm too scared. I can't. So like I'm gonna have to ramp myself up into it, and also maybe reread the other 6.
Yes, I'm up for a finish it February, as Kayla suggested.
Oh, I love this.
There's
because I've got Revenant Gun out from the library this week to finish off the Missionaries of Empire series, and I've got The Toll, which I've been putting off for life reasons, but I do want to finish that series soon.
Yeah, my problem is I don't know if I remember enough of the other 2, but I would like to read The Toll because it's a beast, and I feel very smug about reading it.
Yeah, there's another booktuber, Lizzie Faye Loves Books, which she reads everything, but she's got this Serious About Series challenge. And mine this last year was just cozy mystery series because I'm in the middle of so many.
Oh, but I'm trying the other day. I need to send to you.
Yeah, so I need to finish. I'm trying to do one for cozies and then one for fantasy because I want to finish series this year. But the nice thing about hers is it's all year, not just 1 month. So that's another checkbox thing you can do.
I'm just now copying a link for you that I'm going to send you so that because I must remember to tell you that.
I'm the same as Amber about 5-star predictions. I don't like making 5-star predictions because I'm so anti-hype that if I hype up a book for myself and then don't enjoy it, then I can't cope with it.
or I put them off if they're super hyped because I get scared. So
and it was a prompt
I totally get that.
It was a prompt for Magical Readathon last year, wasn't it? Read a 5-star prediction, and I read Redemptor, and it wasn't as good as Raybearer, and I was sad. It was good. I still really enjoyed it, but I loved Raybearer so much that because I was like, I then had hyped it for myself that it was going to be as good. Whereas if I hadn't put it down as a 5-star prediction, I probably would have not been as worried.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Serious About Series is a good name. We have got lots to finish. We're all terrible. But we have our TBR chat. We can do this.
Yeah.
I really liked Redemptor.
I really enjoyed it, but I just I got a bit more frustrated with it because I was expecting it to be so good, and then
I try not to think about them too much, but I know which ones I'm hyped about, and I don't think it matters whether or not I've done 5-star predictions. I know which ones I'm excited for. Like,
Exactly.
You made a spread in your bullet journal so you can color in the series. Ooh.
It's so nice to have a spread
That's
for
a good
it.
idea.
It's so satisfying to just color something in.
Maybe I'll like highlight on my my list or something. Oh, I could add a thing to my TBR checking spreadsheet thing that I've got on Notion. I might do that.
So talking of series, we're making you all start another one. Next one. But a sci-fi one. Yeah, lovely segue there. So our book for February is Ancillary Justice by Anne Leckie, which is the first book in, and I always say this wrong, I'm sure, Imperial Raj trilogy, I think is how you say it, but I'm probably wrong. So the live show with that will be 4 weeks from today at the same time. And I'm going to be putting a reading schedule in our Discord later. If you want to buddy read it, we'll buddy read it kind of towards the end of February so that we can be all refreshed. It's a reread for me, and I absolutely love the series, and I'm so excited we're reading it. So this was my favorite, one of my favorite books of, I think it was 2019. I read the first one and I read it. I actually back to back the series. I read like one in September, one in like November, and one in January, which is really good for me of back to back reading. Like I usually can't read series that quickly, so I've got through the whole series really quickly because I just loved it so much. So
I still need to get a copy, so I'm hoping to be with it, but as we all know, the TBR challenge to reduce is not going well for any of us. So we'll see. But yeah, no, that should be soon. And Kerry is going to be a much better host than I was because she's actually going to reread the book and do a read along and everything like that. Because I said I was going to do those things and then I did not.
I tried to do a read along for Iron Widow, but then I just kept forgetting to update anyone on my phone.
Yeah, there is that sort of thing. But also, I think it's also kind of like I knew that I'd race through it. I'm incapable of reading things slowly when I'm excited.
Same.
So, like, there was too much guilt. Yeah, but I think that's. I mean, we're slightly overrun, and I think that is where we're at. Oh god, like so Amber's bought a book and Kayla sent Ivy to Barnes & Noble. Oh no.
Stay strong.
I mean, I haven't bought a book since Tuesday.
That's impressive. I was doing really well. I was doing so well until my library had a book, my college had a book sale.
Yeah.
18 books for £1 though. I mean,
you can't walk away from that.
No. Thank you, Amber. Thank you so much for joining in, and thank you, Kayla, and thank you, obviously, lovely Stephanie and lovely Kerry. Yes. And yeah, we'll be back in 4 weeks.
In 4 weeks.
Gosh, February is so short. I can't hit